quite understand that because, you know, she grew up with, you know, A, B, C, or D, and so or an F. So she thinks that, like, because we have, like, just a little blank spot in, like, on Power School where we see our grades, and she sees that, and she's like, you're failing, you're grounded. I'm like, no, it's CBE. So, yeah, that's one thing that that was my least favorite part about CBE, is trying to explain it to my parents. Because she still doesn't grasp it. She just...
Other things that the school's done, you know, parent-teacher conferences or events to try to communicate that.
Yeah, we have them, but my parents choose not to.
It's just hard to understand something that you're...
They're just like, are you at school? Cool.
Yeah, and it hasn't been necessarily like the school hasn't made an effort. It's more or less the, you know, parents. Because we had like a huge classroom discussion where we all like wrote a letter, and Ms. Hassett like the students' words in it so that we can all kind of like talk to how we would talk to our parents. And even then, like, my mom is just, you know, if she doesn't have the proof that I'm passing, then I'm not passing. And that's what the issue is right now.
At first, my parents were like, this is really dumb, and they were getting angry because they're like, well, at quarter, they said that it's go at your own pace, but how can they cut you off at quarter when they can't cap your grade when you're not done with the class yet? So that's why we didn't get a grade at the quarter, because we voiced our opinion about it, and then they did that. Because it was stressing my mom out, and she was like, well, if this is learn at your own pace, and she was getting really angry and worked up about it, so I explained it to her, and then when we learned that we didn't get a grade, she was okay with it again.
What do you guys think about like how learning is different for you this year as compared to how it was last year?
In my English class, you work at your own pace. Like, you have to reach a point that you have to have it done, but they help you more, and you have time to understand what you're doing, or like, if I don't understand something, I go back and ask questions, while some other students don't, and they get a bad grade on what they're doing. So it helps a lot to work on something that you don't know than just moving on and not understanding it.
Okay.
Well, if you work on some stuff that you like don't like after working on it, you get a bad grade. You kind of have a chance to go back and look at what you didn't do and go and do it again to get a better grade. So, like, if you have like maybe a 2, you can go back, maybe talk to the teacher and redo what you didn't do.
Does the rubric help so you can actually see like exactly how to move over to the next? Okay.
I've noticed that with we read the Scarlet Letters. And I don't know how many of you guys read Scarlet Letters, but it is incredibly hard to yeah, so like we had the classroom discussions, and we had everyone like was throwing what they had thought happened in the chapter, and then like we were all trying to figure out the symbols and stuff, and it was like really nice to have everyone help. It was like almost everyone's helping each other too in those discussions. And so like there were things that like would totally fly over my head that I agreed past, and then someone would bring it up in discussion, and we'd you know, have a big analysis of it, and then like I'd have a better understanding, and so that definitely helped, and I like that part.
How do you think we have University of Iowa students as well as educators at the University of Iowa? So how do you think this is preparing you for college?
Oh my goodness. I have to talk to my parents about this. Okay, so my older sister didn't go to college, but I have other family members who have, and they stopped here because they just didn't know how to study. They didn't have the motivation. Whereas with this, it's like I kind of know how to, and like I can take something like the Scarlet Letter that has like the word "the" in it, and I don't understand what that means, and I can take that and I can understand it now. I can analyze it. I can nitpick. I can write notes. Like, I have a notebook of notes on just that book. So I feel like that's kind of preparing us for the studying aspect, which I know a lot of people flunk out or suck their freshman year because they just don't have that skill yet. And I'm learning that skill now with the CBE program.
That's great. Now I have a secret. I have a history professor that grades my papers exactly the way you're describing how some of your papers have been graded. We started at a C, and then we have to work to go higher. So those are good skills. They're getting you ready for sure.
And I think another thing that kind of helps us is that in your CBE classes, you put in the work that you want, like you really have to work for your grade. And I think in college that's going to help because you don't have your parents, like they're like, hey, get your homework done, get your homework done. Like you're going to have to take it into your own hands and do it on your own. And I think that's something that CBE is preparing us for, is that we have to put in the work we want to get out in our grade.
I think also, like for CBE, the project that Jocelyn and I did, you can kind of tailor it to what you want to learn. So I know that Jocelyn and I both kind of want to go into marketing when we go to college. So not only when we did this project where we learned about government, but we also got to kind of educate ourselves and practice a little bit of marketing. So I think that's a nice thing that CBE does, that the kids can really kind of tailor it if they do a project to their own interests.
Would you go back to a regular classroom if you could?
I prefer the CBE because I can go back in and fix what I needed to understand more. Like for our science, when we were learning about cells, I did not understand what all goes into them and how they exactly work, and that showed in one of my tests. And so I went back and fixed that one section.
Do you feel like you have a better understanding of it now?
Yeah.
Especially in science, I mean, everything kind of builds off of itself throughout the semester. Do you find to work in a unit or in a lesson further down the line if you didn't do so well on one beforehand? I mean, you can go back and figure it out more, but is it hard to kind of mesh those two things that are supposed to be building on each other?
Yeah.
I think that if you would have asked me that question when we first started CBE, I would have been like, yeah, I want regular classroom. Like, I want to know how much I'm going to be graded, how many points. But now I think I've really grown into CBE and I like it. As I was talking, I'm in AP Calc, and our first quiz is today actually, so I'm kind of stressed out about that. But she's kind of grading it sort of CBE in you turn in your quiz and say I were to get like a C on it today. One way that I can bring up, instead of retaking the quiz, is she doesn't grade homework. So what I'll do is bring up a quiz grade. I can go back and work on more homework problems, work on more test problems, just get more practice so that the quiz isn't entirely what my final grade will be. So I think that I like that better now that I'm in kind of tougher classes. I can not just depend solely on that one quiz, but go back and demonstrate that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's definitely the same with me. Like, I think if I were to have like CBE in like a science class or a math class, I don't know if I would feel the same way because I like the traditional, I get a grade for this. And so English, it's definitely helped me with like actually learning what I'm reading. Like not just reading a book and saying, oh, this is a book. Like there's symbolism and satire, and it's like, oh, there's new things that I would have just read and like wrote a paper about and got a grade. Like I like learning and stuff.
I agree with Emily on that. I really like my English class at CBE, but I like everything else how it is. Because I'm in physics right now, intensive physics, as a junior, and everyone else is seniors in my class, well, the majority of it. So I like having the discussion stuff. And it's a regular class, it's not CBE, but we still discuss and we go kind of slow, but also at a normal classroom pace. And I like that better. I don't think I would do very well in physics if it was CBE.
So you kind of all like choice, it seems like, too.
Well, I feel like if I were to go back to a standardized English class, I would feel like everything
Following students invited to pick up the attendance center, Mallory Kaufman, Sylvia Trail, Gabe Woodburn, Yvette Murillo. Please report to
what I've gone
attendance.
through so far, and it hasn't even been semester yet, it's like, I feel like my brain has like grown to this English, because English isn't my subject. It's not. I've had B's and C's and, and I actually am learning now instead of just, oh, it's a book. No, there's more to it, and like what you said, I actually understand it now, which is nice.
That's great.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are getting more mastery of books rather than just kind of getting by, getting done, and getting a grade. You're
I'm so excited to hear you all talking about skills and not grades, because